Hello and welcome back to our UA24 webinar series. We are happy to be with you today. I am Allison Beasley, our coordinator of parent and family programs here at the university. And today we are going to talk with Alicia Brown from Housing and Residential Communities. She's going to tell you about some of the differences in our residence halls on campus, what the process looks like for new and incoming families for housing, what the application process, move-in, a lot of different helpful hints and tips and tricks for you. So we are so excited to be with you today. And without further ado, I will turn it over to you, Alicia.
Okay, great. Thank you, Allison. I'm glad to be with you today. So I think we'll jump right into talking about what it's like to be on campus at UA. The first thing I'll mention is that here at UA, we do have a freshman residency requirement. We have since 2006. We knew then, we continue to know because research shows us that the best start for first-year students at UA is to live on campus. We know that it encourages students to engage in campus life. It encourages them to persist and be retained and graduate, and they have access to a whole bunch of resources and support that really help them get off to a great start. Now, that said, we do exempt students who live locally, and that means within 60 miles of campus. So if there's someone interested in applying for an exemption, that form is on the MyBama website and on the housing website, and our deadline to do so is July 15th. Let me mention just a little bit more about what we mean when we talk about the resources that are going to be available for your freshman student. It really starts with the staff who will be interacting with them in the residence halls. And there's a multi-layered approach to staffing our residence halls. It begins with our resident advisors. These are trained student staff who have been in a freshman's shoes a year, 2, maybe 3 years before, but they have experienced everything a first-year student is going to, from homesickness to finding their way around campus, understanding the bus system, to roommate issues. They are well-trained and prepared. So I always encourage first-year students to get to know their RAs. Beyond that, we also have live-on community directors. These are grad students. Their offices and their homes are in the residence halls. Again, great resources. And then for both students and parents, if they should have a question, we have professional staff who live on. These are our area coordinators. And again, their offices and their homes are in the residence halls. Some of our halls and some of our living learning communities have faculty and residents, and they are fabulous. It gives students a chance to interact with faculty outside of a classroom setting or outside of office hours, but to see that faculty are just people too. We've had faculty who play basketball with residents. We've had faculty who've watched presidential debates and talked about them with residents, and just all kinds of fun stuff, Thanksgiving dinner. So if you happen to live somewhere where you've got faculty and residents, be sure to get to know them, because it is a whole other side of your professors that you don't otherwise see. I mentioned just a couple other things in terms of resources available to students. Even when students know a roommate well, or they've picked one well, or they're making every effort to get along with the roommate, conflicts may happen. And so this is something we are well prepared to help roommates deal with, particularly the RAs. We can help students put together roommate agreements. We can do roommate mediation, which is helping them talk through particular issues. And if situations don't work out, we're also available to help with room changes. We hope it doesn't come to that, but sometimes it does. Our staff can also help put in a work order when you have a maintenance issue. It is quick and easy to do it online for any situation that may come up. So those are just a couple other the resources available to students on campus.
And families, now is a great time to talk with your students about how to handle conflicts while they're still living at home with you, so that they can not let conflicts escalate when they are living with roommates. Talk to them about how to healthily handle that conflict now, and talk to them about what issues they can talk to an RA about, that sort of thing. So while they're still under your roof, now is a good time to prep them for some of those conversations so that it doesn't escalate later. But if it does, the HRC staff is always happy to help.
We know that's a big issue. We encounter lots of students who have never had to share a room before. Maybe they've never shared a bathroom, and their typical method of communication is a text message or Snapchat. And this is a situation where face-to-face communication with a roommate is absolutely going to be the best.
For sure.
All right. I think we'll dive right in now, Allison, and talk specifically about the housing application and assignment process. The online housing application is open. It has been since October 1st, and you can reach it through the housing website. So there are different ways at this point that students will be assigned depending on what they've done with the application to date. You do have to be admitted to UA and pay the freshman enrollment deposit to apply for housing. So there may be students who are just now being admitted, or they're just now comfortable paying the enrollment deposit. Once those are done, you can apply for housing. There is a $200 housing charge due at the time you apply. Out of that, $35 is a non-refundable application fee, but the remaining $165 is refundable depending on when you cancel. Students at this point who have applied by February 3rd of this year are going to be eligible to do online room selection, and that's going to take place in early May. You should not already have your information about when to select your room yet. We should send that out by the end of February or beginning of March, and then you'll know specifically when your time to select a room will happen. Students who applied after the 3rd and continue to apply will be assigned by HRC staff. That'll happen anywhere from about the end of May into July based on when you apply for housing. You at this point can tell us on your application the type of community that you want to live in, and we certainly look at those as we make assignments. There is no deadline to apply for housing, but we do make assignments now in application date order.
And so all of the information regarding room selection and everything will be sent to a student's Crimson email, right, Alicia?
That is exactly right. If you are not yet used to checking your Crimson email, now would be the time, because you will get lots of communication, not just from us, but across campus, but information about room selection, your final assignment information, information about move-in, all going to your Crimson email. All right, just as a reminder, if you want to go ahead and pay that housing deposit, we do want to get your money back if you change your mind. So if you let us know by May 1st, you will get a full refund of the $165 prepayment that you made. If you cancel between May 2nd and June 1st, you'll receive a partial refund. You do have to let us know, so please contact HRC, not just admissions, because we do want to make sure you get your money back if your plans change. All right, one thing I like to mention to students, particularly those who may be coming from far away, come here without knowing anybody from their high school or their hometown, our living learning communities are a fantastic way to become part of a small community right from the time you move in. Living learning communities vary. You can see several different options on the slide right now. But in general, what they mean is where you live is connected in some way to the college you're in, to your major, to an academic interest that you have, whether it's because you're in business or you're a McCullough Scholar and you're pre-med, you're a female student interested in the STEM field, or you're in the honors college. All of those living options mean the people living around you have that in common with you. And if you're at all concerned about the size of UA's campus, this is a way to feel that you are part of a smaller community from the moment that you move in. All of our LLCs and our themed housing options are described on the housing website. Please note, some of them have their own application and their own deadline separate from the housing application. So if you check these out, please notice whether you need to apply separately, and if so, what the deadline is. If these appeal to you, we don't want you to miss out. All right, we talked a little bit about roommates already, about setting expectations, about talking through communication. So I'll talk a little bit more now about how you might find one. Through the online housing application, you can create a profile about yourself. You can search for a roommate. You can make your profile available for other students to find you. You are able to request one roommate as a freshman, and depending who has an earlier application date, then one particular student can pick a room if they're eligible for online room selection, and they can pull the roommate in. Or if we're assigning the two of you, we will look at the student with the earlier application date. You definitely want to talk through what you're interested in. Where do you want to live? What can your family afford? Are you interested in an LLC? Because that's going to determine what's a good match. And you do not want to find out at the last minute as you go into room selection that one person wants one housing option, or one person is eligible for a particular housing option and the other didn't. That's really too late to find out. The other thing I want to say about roommate profiles is this is the one part, parents, where you absolutely want your student to fill out their profile themselves. The things we as parents think about our students, like how tidy they are, or how early they go to bed, or some of those things may not actually be how students would describe themselves. And the best chance of a good match is that students are open and honest about themselves. Now, I know beyond the housing application, a lot of students are using social media to find roommates. The Class of 2024 Facebook group is another option for students to think about. All right, I'm going to talk here just a little bit about the variety of residence hall options available on UA's campus, and we really run the gamut, which is great because there's an option for different personalities. We have traditional halls, and by that I mean you're going to share a room with somebody, and there'll be some sort of community bathroom shared by residents on the hall. That's going to be your least expensive housing option. Kind of at the other end of the spectrum, you've got suite styles, and we have several buildings that have suites. Within a suite, that means each student is going to have their own bedroom. You're going to have two students who share a bathroom. There'll be a common living room and a kitchenette shared by the other students within the suite. Kind of in the middle of those options, we have double occupancy bedrooms where you share a private bathroom. Our newest residence hall, England Hall, which opened in 2018, has that option. So you are sharing a room with someone else, but you have a private bathroom that just you and your roommate share. We do have on-campus apartments, but those are almost always for our returning students. And housing beyond freshman year is an option. It's not required, but it's certainly available. And on-campus apartments are one of the really appealing housing options once you get to sophomore year and beyond. You can find our current rates for housing on the housing website, although they may go up just a little bit next year. This will give you a very good sense of the cost of different residence halls right now. And within just the next few weeks, end of February into early March, we should have our proposed rates for next year to get an even better sense of what cost would be.
Awesome. Well, Alicia, it seems like there are several options for incoming students and their families to talk about. What's your best advice for them to decide which style works for them? Is there a best one?
There's not a best. There's a best for each student, but there's not an overall best. And I really encourage students, don't think about what you think is the most popular, or what your older brother or sister wanted, or what your friends from high school are going to do. There's a best for each student in their personality, and that has to do with how they make friends, how social they are, how much private time they need, where's the best place for them to study, because it's really going to depend on how you as a student make friends and how much quiet time you need. The other thing I will say is keep in mind your family's budget. That's a really important part of thinking through this experience, and there's definitely going to be a range of costs. So talk openly and honestly with student and parents to decide what fits your family's budget. And then we always like to say here to have a plan B. You may decide your absolute favorite option, what you think is perfect for you, but have another option, because just depending on whom you meet as a roommate or when you get into the room selection process, maybe your first choice isn't available or isn't where a roommate wants to live. So have a plan B or a plan C available, just so you have thought through what all of your options are. All right, I'm jumping ahead a little bit because I know families are already beginning to think about moving. It's going to come fast. The way we do move in here at UA, I think for most students and families is going to be a very pleasant surprise. First thing to know is you're not just going to show up randomly. You are going to pick a move-in day and time online, and basically that'll be available to begin choosing in mid-June. You do have to have a housing assignment in order to pick a time, because part of what may determine when you can come is the building you're in, or even perhaps the floor that you're on. So you've got to have an assignment to have access to pick your move-in day and time. There are specific days available for students, in particular early activities. And you very well may not know what type of activity you're going to be involved in, but that could be sorority recruitment, that could be honors action, you could be attending Camp 1831, you could be in the $1 Million Band, and I think there are actually lots more early activities I'm not even thinking about now. But that's another thing you'll need to be aware of. In general, though, as you begin to plan, August 5th, 6th, and 7th, they have a little asterisk by them. Those are early move-in dates. So those are dates you would pick from depending on an early activity you may be involved in. General freshman move-in will be Thursday, August 14th, Friday, August 15th. I absolutely want to encourage you not to begin making your plans until you have a good idea of what your students' move-in day. I know it's tempting to go ahead and try to make flight plans and book hotels, but you just can't know quite at this point when your students' move-in will be. So I encourage you to wait a bit before you start making your plans. All right, there is a lot of information that we have and haven't covered today, which is on our website. You will find floor plans of every residence hall. You will find typical room layouts. You will find photos. So I would really encourage you to take advantage of those resources on our website. You'll find the full application process. We will continue to update move-in information, not just dates and times, but suggested lists of things to bring and the things we don't allow on campus. So definitely check that out as a resource. And if you want to learn more about us, I would follow us on social media. We share lots of cool things about our programs, about our RAs, videos of our residence halls. So we're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and that's another great way just to see what's going on in our halls day to day.
Awesome. So we know there has been lots of information just in this presentation. We know that you probably still have lots of questions. We know that you may not even know what those questions are yet, but Alicia has graciously included all of HRC's contact information here. So please feel free to reach out either to Housing and Residential Communities or directly to Parent and Family Programs if you do have questions. We have lots of information on the HRC website. If you are a planner like I am, it includes lots of technical specs for things like that. If you want to go ahead and start planning for your student's room.
Lots of parents are planners, Allison, you know that. Lots of moms are planners.
So we know it's an exciting process to go ahead and think about when your student is moving in. We know that it's tempting to go ahead and buy everything, but I will also say it's important for your student to communicate with their roommate or roommates about who is bringing what so that you don't end up with 3 of everything or none of something. So it's really important to remember that there are lots of things you can still buy here in town on move-in weekend.
Including bottled water.
Yes.
You do not have to carry in cases and cases of water because we have that in Tuscaloosa.
We do have stores here, so we know it's tempting to overpack a little bit, but I will say that our HRC team makes the move-in process so quick, so easy. It is, we constantly hear from parents and family members that it is the easiest process that they have seen. So we are just very grateful to the HRC team for trying to make that process as quick and painless as possible. We know that there are lots of emotions that weekend as well. So we just want to let you know that we are here for you if you do have any questions about the HRC process as we get closer to the move-in time frame as well. So please feel free to reach out either to HRC or Parent and Family Programs. And we want to thank you for joining us today for our UA24 webinar series. And as always, roll tide.
Roll Tide.